My incredible brand to present is Kodak, the photography company that, FYI, went bankrupt in 2012.
Controversial choice.
It's a controversial choice because I'll try to get through it as fast as I can so I don't take up too much time. But this is an example of an incredible brand who got away from what it was that made them an incredible brand, and that's why they went bankrupt.
Bit of a cautionary tale in here.
It's definitely kind of a cautionary tale because they make a crucial mistake and the biggest photography company in the world disappears. So let's get into it. Okay, so the mission of Kodak, they believed in making photography available to the world and making it possible for anyone who had the desire to take great pictures. So they wanted to make photography available to everyone. And their first big marketing campaign was, you press the button, we do the rest. So though that was their brand experience, you press the button, we do the rest, and their mission, photography for everybody. That was the big vision. So they built mass awareness and dominated the market in the 20th century. Before Kodak, photography was a pain, very technical, very complicated, and they introduced innovations early on to make it more available to the photography enthusiast, the amateur photographer. In the 1900s, they were selling cameras loaded with film so that you could literally just click the button, take the picture. You'd mail the camera back to them. They'd develop the photos, reload the camera with new film, and send that back to you.
It's like how Netflix does it.
Yeah, literally, DVDs around. All you had to do was click, off you go. This is basically before disposable cameras. That was like the first thing when we that kind of evolves into disposable camera. Another huge thing they came out with was a line of film called Kodachrome. And basically the massive perk of this line of film and other lines of film they had after this was that when you purchased it, the cost of developing the film was in the price of buying it. So after you used the roll of film, you wouldn't have to go for a second transaction to get it developed. You just brought it back to Kodak and they develop it, no questions asked. So they kind of removed that step that other film companies were making their customers do, where you buy the film, take it, and then buy the development process. Kodak eliminated that second step and did it all in one. So that was hugely popular for them, and that really helped them dominate film sales. And so these kinds of innovations for Kodak made photography less of a headache and made it really easy for photographers and amateur photographers. The next thing they did that was huge was Kodak ran a massively successful marketing campaign. You guys may be familiar with this, called Kodak Moments. It was used to refer to any moment worthy of a photo. They understood that people tend to take photos at emotional times, and Kodak capitalized on this to the point that people associated the Kodak brand to life's meaningful moments. And so
very nice.
We're talking about like getting married, your kids, your child's first steps. You know, they positioned themselves right against these moments, you know, to really empower their customers. And so when we're talking about getting to the top level of brand awareness, empowerment is where you want to be, and Kodak really got themselves there to the point that you couldn't capture an important moment without Kodak.
And so just to kind of like to keep on the kind of the brand point there, it's like their focus was always, it was not the technical, it wasn't like the technical aspect of what made their cameras so good. It was customer benefit, customer benefit, customer benefit.
We handle all the technical. You capture the moment, you click the button. We're making it available to everyone. That is the core of what Kodak was. And so basically, to cap off this, their success, 85% market share with cameras, 90% market share with film in 1976. Jeez. So if we end the story there, they're just an incredible brand. They knew exactly what photographers needed. They innovated to make their brand relevant. The marketing campaign with the Kodak Moments really helped them become an empowering brand for their customers. And then going back to their brand identity, because I haven't spoken about that, kind of their red and yellow brand, if you guys are familiar with it, you just give them a quick Google. But they had a really punchy red and yellow color. Kodak was very
iconic.
Memorable. Sorry?
Iconic.
very iconic, to the point that when you were searching for film on the store shelves, that yellow box stood out. So like it was very loud and dominant because you were looking to capture that perfect memory, and Kodak was always right there drawing customers into them at the photography stores. So again, if we ended the story there, they're just an incredible brand, and that's it. But the story doesn't end there.
There's a big butt coming.
there's a big butt coming, and that's why I think Kodak's a great example, because they had it all and they also lost it all. So the core of Kodak's business was film. Okay. They would even often give cameras away for free because you can't use a camera without film, and you can't get photos printed without film. It's the magic little piece to the puzzle. So Kodak was well positioned to translate into digital photography when it came around. They were the biggest photography company by a long shot when digital became a thing. And the big kicker is they actually invented digital photography. It was their invention. So if they went full digital, every photographer and every customer would have fallen right into the digital space. But because of their risk aversion, and I'm just going to refer to my notes on this one, their risk aversion and unwillingness to kill its old business meant the world went digital without Kodak. Instead of thinking about the average photographer's needs, hence the you press the button, we do the rest, they were thinking about how do we sell more film and keep film as the most important product in photography.
And so then, just to kind of keep this brand focused, then like the issue then was that obviously you can say like risk averse, whatever, as a business, but as a brand, their problem was they didn't follow the customer. They put their desire to sell their product ahead of listening to where the customer was going. And exactly. That kind of, you go from Kodak moments where they're all about the customer, all about that focused target. And then they've shifted. Actually, they're very much, they're looking to themselves. They're looking at what they want instead of where's the market going.
Exactly. They made it all about the manufacturing and the product itself, and weren't thinking about their customer anymore, when that's how they originally started. You press the button, we do the rest. We want to make photography available to everyone who desires to take a great picture. Okay, so digital presented itself, and that is the next step in that journey. And Kodak saw it and said, this is not as important.
So what's the lesson here, Mike? Like if you're, if we, people that are listening, they're not going to own billion-dollar photography companies. Maybe they do.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly.
But what's the lesson here? Like what do we take away from this as a cautionary tale?
I think the biggest lesson about this whole thing with Kodak is that a great brand, an incredible brand, positions themselves next to their customer, and they're worried about what their customer needs versus whatever they can produce in a factory somewhere. And so I think great brands are always focused on their customer. And Kodak, as soon as they stopped focusing on their customer, they went bankrupt.
And it was, I think, we were talking last week about like the fluidity of brands. Like no brand should be stagnant. Like it should, it's like Kodak was attached to film, but film wasn't their brand. Like the brand is, it should be customer face. It should be, benefit driven and value driven.
Exactly. Your product is not your brand, and I think that's something that's a trap Kodak fell into, and that ended up killing their business. It won't always be that bad for everybody who might make a bad decision like that or go down a bad path, but for Kodak, that was game over.
I think another interesting thing is that, I think when people think about branding or brand or how do they present their product, it's like we often fall into the trap of thinking, how do I get my product? My brand has to represent my product. It has to represent the features and all that sort of things. And I think it's almost a learning lesson that you should always be tying your brand into a greater idea, into an emotional sentiment, much like they did about the Kodak moments. It's not about
just
the camera.
It's not product. It's not just product. It's not function. It's
it's about what it
attached, it's
means
more
to
authentic.
people.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think if I could make my last point about it, again, like the Kodak mission to make pictures available to anyone, and you hit the button, we do the rest. That statement is true today. Kodak didn't deliver it though. They were on the right path. They had the right idea to this point that it is true, but other companies are now doing it better than they are.
And I think it's that was so nicely distilled. You click the button, we do that. It's value. It's like you capture the things that matter to you. We'll do everything else. It's like you have to your brand has to focus on who it's serving. And once you lose sight of that, bad things can happen.